Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Hangout with Coach Kerry show. This is an expert interview today. This is episode 94. And what we're going to talk about is a committed writing practice and how it can transform your business and your life. And I am so excited about this episode today. But just to remind you, you can go and watch 93 previous episodes all on my website at hangoutwithcoachkerry.com. So KERRY.com. And while you're there, pick up my book, How to Get Out of Overwhelm and Accelerate Your Results Now. That's a free ebook that you can download. And then you'll also get upcoming notifications of episodes. Just a quick FYI, I'm going to episode 100. So that's going to be my anniversary episode. So you do want to be on that. That's the beginning of March, the first Monday in March. And then from thereafter, I'll be mounting, expert interviews from time to time, and then remounting some of my best loved and my fan favorite episodes. So if you want to catch them live now, please do watch up until March I think it's March the 7th. Anyway, let's get on to today's episode. I am really excited today about introducing you to a good friend of mine. She happens to hail from Victoria, British Columbia, the same place I do. Junie Swadron. Junie, say hi to everybody.
Hello, everyone. Hi, great to be here with you today, Kerry.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to have you here. Now, Junie's an expert in writing and all the things that writing can do to transform your business and your life. I'm going to have her tell you a little bit more about her actually educational background, because it'll just give you a little bit more understanding as where she comes from, a little bit of her story, and then we're going to get into the tips and strategies to help you. So, Junie, why don't you share with everybody a little bit about your story?
Okay. My story as a writing coach started way back when I was a kid, and about 11 years old, and a friend of the family gave me a diary, a little 5-year diary, which I probably finished in a week. I just found that writing was my thing, and it was something that allowed me to share what was deep in my heart, because I couldn't really do it in my family. And so I became way more proficient at writing than I did at speaking for a very, very long time. I could get my thoughts and my emotions and my feelings and clarity and everything like that. So it became a real great tool. And in those years, journaling was not even heard of, really. I mean, you had your little diaries, but it wasn't like my mother ever said, go to your room, write in your journal, you'll feel better. So it wasn't like that. But luckily, it became something that became a lifelong tool and gift. And I had no idea way back then that writing would always be a very, very important part of my life. And so I became a psychotherapist in Toronto about 20 years ago. And about the same time, I read Natalie Goldberg's Writing Down the Bones. And I realized that because she wrote in a similar style that I did, and I just had this impulse that said I could do this. I could facilitate writing groups, and I started that. And about the same time as I started my therapy practice, and I was using writing as a therapeutic tool, I started facilitating these groups that I've been doing ever since.
Wow. Well, so for our audience here, we're speaking to somebody who knows of which she speaks. So I'm really excited to have you on this episode. So let's just start. Tell us a little bit about why, from your perspective, you think that writing can transform a person's business and their life.
Well, first of all, as an entrepreneur, words are everything. I mean, the media of Facebook and Twitter and social media and our websites and press releases and everything that we are promoting are words. And so it's really, really vital that we describe what we do in a way that is going to impact the people who we want it to. And so there are ways in which we can do that. And if we're not And if we don't do it well, we can lose people really quickly. And I think sometimes as coaches, I know for me, I've been doing what I do for so many years, I forget that people don't really know everything I do, and I kind of assume they know these basics, and they don't necessarily. And so it's a matter, and I think that's true for many of us who are just passionate about what we do, but we forget the why. And sometimes it's important for us to go back and remember, what is it that got us to do this kind of business in the first place?
Mm. Yeah.
So that we can,
go ahead.
Yeah. Just so that we can come back in touch with that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, Junie, because my episode last week, so episode 93, I was talking about branding. And one of the key pieces is to be passionate about your business. And if you've lost that, you need a little sort of shot in the arm in terms of your passion. This is a perfect tie-in, because really what I'm hearing you say is writing can help you either remind yourself or uncover maybe a new passion that you didn't know that you had, that you didn't have, or one that you've lost. So yeah, I can see the application there very very solidly for entrepreneurs. No question about it.
Yes, and I think too, the more clear that we get and why we love what we do, and to go back to that in case we've lost a little bit of the luster, and because a lot of us do what we do. And often people are facilitating something, coaching, because they've come through some kind of crisis themselves, and they've learned. A lot of entrepreneurs have learned something and then they want to teach it to others. And it's good to know what that process was, to remember what that was. What did I learn? And when we can write from that authentic, true voice, from that place, from the heart, that's where we're going to capture people, because we want to know, people who are reading what we say, it has to be really strong, and that it's coming from a place of, wow, I've been there. I've been there. So people can say, they read this and they'll say, this person gets me.
Right.
Because if we're writing in a professional way, which we do want to do, but we also want to have a voice that's really compassionate, where people can relate to that. And so it's really important. And writing will get us there. For a coach to use that kind of writing to really go deep. And so we'll reveal things that maybe we have forgotten. We can go even deeper still, perhaps. And those words that come out in our writing are the very words that we can be using in our copy. Right. Because these are the words that people are sitting up at night thinking, oh my God, I need this so badly. Right. And it will set us apart from what other people do, because there's always competition, that nobody's lived what we've lived, right? So we're saying it in our unique way.
Right. And that's really a differentiator in the marketplace too, because if you are able to write and speak your true sort of authentic self, because you've been able to really uncover what that is versus what I would call, just straight copywriting or using somebody else's style, they'll be able to sense that authentic person behind that and make a deeper connection faster, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So why don't we talk a little bit about, stream of consciousness writing? Tell our audience a little bit about what that is, so that maybe tell them how they could start doing it, today, right after this, because as you know, I'm all about results, give you some practical strategies coach. So
yes, absolutely.
Why don't you go ahead with that?
Okay. So stream of consciousness is about throwing out the rules, throw out everything, spelling, grammar, punctuation, anything that we've learned before, because if you want to go back later and edit, that's fine, but not during the creative process. And that's where, when we can do that and really, excuse me, have a bit of a cold, move out of that way and still that inner critic that says things like, oh, you can't write, you have nothing valuable to say, you can't spell. When we can just move beyond that and write from the deepest place within us, then we're not writing from a place of deciding what we're going to say. Stream of consciousness has nothing to do with knowing what we're going to say or trying to control it in any way. We're listening. And as we're listening, we're guided. And then it becomes a meditation on the page, because we're just there and we're willing to access that deeper part in us. And that's where the wisdom comes in. because we all have our own inner wisdom. We don't have to go anywhere to find that. But it's really important to be able to just put all those other voices away. And if they're really loud, then give them their voice. Let them have that, and eventually it'll write itself out. Because if our intention is to go deeper, then that's what we need to do. And sometimes there's a lot of reasons why people are afraid to journal, to write anything. I mean, writing can be very frightening for a lot of people, and for good reason. There's a thing about, that when you write something, it's written in stone, and you can't change it. But it's the opposite, really, because as we write, we shift the energy, and so it's not what it started out to be. And so journal writing, a stream of conscious writing, getting into a deeper part of ourselves, we're shifting whatever we've had stuck, and so it's not going to be the same. It could change, like in an hour later. It could change the next day. And people are also afraid, well, what if somebody reads my journal? And that's a very legitimate fear. So you make sure that you don't keep it on a coffee table.
Right.
You make sure that you put it somewhere where it's not going to be read. Or you write in the front page, this is my journal, please respect it. Or read at your own risk. you say something that, so that keep it somewhere where it's hidden. Because if you think someone's going to read what you've written, you're not going to write it truthfully. You're going to write it in a way that you're not going to be judged, or you're not going to be criticized, and it's not worth the effort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So if someone was going to start with stream of consciousness writing, for an example, tomorrow, what kind of time frame? I mean, we're talking baby steps here. What might be the first couple little baby steps, and how to actually get started with the pen on the paper? Is there a way to start that?
Yes, you can just start. You can even ask yourself a question. You can say, what do I need? What do I want to learn today? Or what matters now? And you just go from that. And you can set your timer for 20 minutes. And at the end of 20 minutes, stop. But know that it's a committed practice. Because if it's not something you're used to doing, it's something that takes practice like anything else. And once it does, it can totally change how we view the world. My motto is, our voice on the page becomes our voice in the world. And it does, because once we're familiar with our voice, we start to stand a bit taller. Something shifts, and we realize that, wow, we are speaking out loud who we really are. We become less afraid of that.
Right.
And yeah.
So from the business context, you talked about how it'll help us, reconnect with our passion, our vision, why we're doing our business in our first place. Does it also help us maybe with a certain kind of prompts, flush out some language we might use if we're writing on our website or something like that? Like, tell me how you would maybe coach someone to be able to do that piece.
Once again, I would ask people to get really clear about what it is that they want to say, and then find the most compelling way of writing that. And so that it's concise, it's real, it's you see it. I keep going back to that authentic voice, but there's two different things. It's when you're writing for yourself, you throw away the spelling, punctuation, grammar. When you're writing on your website or an email, it doesn't matter. When your voice is going out of the world, you don't have a lot of time for people to say, I'm not going to read this, or whoa, I want to read it to the very last sentence. And sometimes little things like a spelling, a typo, or incorrect sentence usage, or lofty writing, where it's not everyday English, where people are thinking, oh, wow, maybe it comes across as a bit not braggart or whatever. So it's really important to find, to learn how to write in a way that is compelling and it's grammatically correct, and will spell out what it is that you're doing. And it takes practice. Sometimes it's just not someone's thing, And if it isn't, then I would say if it's taking a very long time to write copy, then maybe that's something that you would ask somebody else to do for you because you want that best voice, but only somebody who gets your voice.
Right.
It has to be in your voice.
So you've told us how to start with stream of consciousness, writing, journaling. How to start? How do you start writing if you're writing actually for a business case of your website or a brochure or a landing page or something like that? Do you have some tips to sort of get out of the I'm stuck either at your keyboard or pen and then you can't write it on the piece of paper yet? How would you start that?
Well, once again, I don't need to be repetitive, but I know this works. Is once again, get really clearly in touch of why you're doing this. And when you're passionate, your pen won't stop, or your writing, it won't stop, because you're remembering why you love what you do. You're remembering. And when you're coming from that place, you will have the language. It's not about thinking. It's not about, oh my God, why? If you're getting stuck, it's because there's some fear somewhere.
Right.
So it's sometimes about just really getting that fear out of the way. And it's something that you can use with your clients too. And having them write what's going on for them so they can become much more clear. Maybe they haven't been able to describe it before and they need to write it so that they can get clear and tell you. But it's really, again, without getting into a whole bunch of technical ways, because everybody has a different style. So what I would say and how I would say it on a landing page or anything else isn't necessarily someone else's. But it's just really important to get our authentic voice, no matter whether, sometimes you think of, I don't know, maybe banking or something like that could be kind of dry, but not necessarily at all. If once again we have what we think can be the solution for somebody who doesn't know how to budget, for instance.
Right. Yeah. So Junie, what else do people need to know about a committed practice? What is actually maybe what is a committed practice? So maybe a definition of that, and what else would our audience need to know to be inspired? So today, after this episode, they get off and they listen to it and they go, I'm going to test this out. What do you give them some tips and some and that definition, please?
Okay, sure. To be inspired, you start where you are. I have a writing group. It's called Write Where You Are. And even though it's about, play on words, and maybe even we're talking about something that's happened to us 20 years ago, it's our relationship with it right now, that energy that we bring into the writing right now. And so it's right where we are. We could be in a restaurant, for instance, a coffee shop, and we're writing. And we could just be looking at somebody and it's, wow, that person reminds me of Stephen. And the last time I saw Stephen, and it just takes you off somewhere else. And so it's really easy. You don't have to think too much about what to say. You can write a list of things of your favorite topics in the back of your journal so that you can go to at any particular time. When you're using writing for your business, then you can be writing specific questions that you have for your business. How can I promote this better? And you can think of a particular client. Can I help this particular client over this particular hump? And so you're writing just to her or him. And so you could be thinking about an issue that you have had some concerns about and have been afraid to expose, right? But know that if you haven't gone there, if you have gone to those places yourself, then that is the reason why people are going to want to hire you, because they can trust you.
Right.
And so I'm not exactly sure I'm answering this question, but I'm going somewhere else that's really important. And that is about being able to trust yourself, people to trust you as a coach. And so some of those, just getting into a committed writing practice is something you do every day. And it may seem like, oh gosh, I've got so many things on my plate already. How can I do one more
I
thing?
know that the entrepreneurs who are going to be listening to this that's probably you spoke what they were thinking about. So first of all, we need to inspire them to try something new, to get uncomfortable, to maybe choose writing over something else. So go for it.
Okay. I think once people start writing and they see the value of it, they get the clarity, they get the wisdom, they get the ideas that they didn't know they had, because you're moving out of your left linear brain when you're writing, and you're not judging, and you're not crafting, and you're not editing what you're going to say before you say it. You're not in that place. So basically what you're doing is you are just writing, and that's when you start to see the results. You see the results on the page, you start to see the results in your life. And so it's like anything else, it takes a practice before you see that. But sometimes it comes very, very quickly. But if you stop and start and stop and start, it's not very inspiring. But once you start to realize that, wow, this is really working, you're not going to want to not start or stop. You don't want to stop. And maybe something that could really get them inspired is I have a Facebook, Junie's Writing Sanctuary, that people can go to on Facebook. And
great.
Yeah, and I've got this 21-day writing challenge that people can come in at any time, and you can just write or read what other people have written, and to get really comfortable, because you'll see in that particular writing sanctuary, it's just about writing what's true for us. And another really beautiful way to get going is to take a piece of poetry you love, or write a book. Open a book anywhere and write from that. But in terms of the commitment, and I've got so much on my plate already, it's just a matter of doing it, and you won't until you find the incredible results. I mean, you wouldn't get up and think, I'm not going to take a shower or brush my teeth. So it's a good thing to do before you get going in the morning. But if your day is like, oh my God, I got to get kids to school, who has time? I'm getting up early enough, then before you go to bed at night,
right.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
to write how this day has been. Yeah.
So your Facebook group, Junie's Writing Sanctuary, so it's JUNIE''S, and they can find it. Is that a private group, and you just allow them to become a member?
They have to ask, and then I allow them, yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And then how can they find out more about what you offer and what you do, Junie? You've got a website, so tell them the website, and tell them what they might find there in ways of some goodies that you might have on there for them.
Okay. I have my website is Shall I try that again? My website is junieswadron.com, and I offer a variety of things. Of course, I'm a counselor, psychotherapist, and so I do that. And I also have, I coach writers to become authors, and I have a variety of writing groups. I have a Sunday afternoon, if you're living in Victoria, I have every Sunday an afternoon drop-in. I also have a program that is Rewrite Your Life, and that's from the book that I wrote, and it's about writing your stories, but writing them in such a way that you look at the gifts and what you've learned from those stories. And once you've written those, or you get why these stories have come into our lives, because I believe everything that happens to us happens for a reason, and if we're open to finding that out, then it's a real gift, even if it doesn't come in a pretty package with a bow and a ribbon. It's a gift that we can, once we understand that, we can offer what we have learned to others who might be going through similar circumstances. And so those are usually the kinds of people that I get who I help to write their books. They've gone through a crisis, they've learned from that, and now they want to write a book, or they want to write a play, or something like that.
Right.
And the other thing that I'm really excited about is a program that I'm offering in May with a colleague, and her name is Kim Lambert, and we're actually writing, we are facilitating an online program called Coaches Write, and it's exactly about this. And it's about writing for the business, and writing in your life, and writing for your business. And so that will be an eight-week program. Yeah, I think it's starting in May, but people can sign up in advance right now by going to www.coacheswrite.com.
Right. And then they can get onto your newsletter list from your website, junieswadron.com.
Yes.
Is it .com?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and
Yes.
Swadron is spelled Swadron, so junieswadron.com. And then if they're on your newsletter list, I'm sure you'll be giving them some details about that online program, and how
Absolutely.
they can
Plus,
sign up
they
about
are.
that too.
Yes, sorry. As well as every newsletter, there's writing tips.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Well, Junie, thank you so much for this really inspiring interview. I hope that it's inspired the audience here to, start a committed writing practice for their business so they can write their copy, speak their authentic voice, and even if they have somebody else then, wordsmith it after that, they'll be able to give them something to hear their authentic voice. And then certainly for our personal lives to be able to deal with all of the things that happen to it, to somehow have a way to process. I'm sure it'll help us all sleep better, if nothing else.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Junie, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate your time. Again, everybody, if you'd like to, watch this episode again or other episodes, go to hangoutwithcoachkerry.com, and please feel free to comment in the comments below and share them with friends and colleagues and other entrepreneurs that you know could benefit and be inspired by the tips we have at hangoutwithcoachkerry.com. So again, thank you very much, everybody, for your time. I really appreciate it. And thank you, Junie. It's been just a delight. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kerry.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.